In the late 1990s, a company called Lucent Technologies figured out a clever way to grow fast. See, Lucent made telecom equipment, switches, routers, the gear that phone companies needed. And when those phone companies couldn't quite afford to buy, Lucent lent them the money. Billions of dollars in customer financing so the customers could buy Lucent's own gear. Sales went through the roof. Wall Street loved it as they usually do until they don't. Lucent's stock climbed to make the company worth about $250 billion at its peak. Then the customers started struggling to pay back those loans. The sales Lucent had booked turned out to be debt Lucent was holding. The stock lost nearly 95% of its value. They wrote off billions in bad customer loans. The customer's health had become Lucent's health, and nobody noticed until it was too late. I see the same pattern today, but I want to take you back 40 years earlier to a bowling alley in America because this trap is older than the internet. In the 1950s, a company called Brunswick invented the automatic pin setter. Before that invention, bowling alleys needed a kid in the back to reset the pins by hand. The pin setter changed everything. Bowling exploded. It went from a niche pastime to a national obsession almost overnight. Brunswick was at the center of it, selling pin setters and lanes as fast as they could make them. But here's where it gets interesting. A lot of the bowling alley operators who wanted to expand didn't have the cash to buy all of the equipment outright. So what Brunswick do? Well, they did what Lucent did. 40 years later, they financed the buyers themselves. Brunswick's revenue went from about $33 million in 1954 to about $422 million in 1961. Their headcount soared. Their stock soared. They were the hottest company in America at the time. Then the market got saturated. Every town that could support a bowling alley had one. Demand for new lanes stalled out, and when it did, all those credit-financed operators had started missing their payments. By 1962, Brunswick was sitting on about $400 million in debt. Its stock fell from roughly $75 a share down to about $13. And then the final indignity. Brunswick ended up physically repossessing 831 bowling centers. Not because they wanted to own them, just because that was the only way to collect on the loans. And that made me think about, I used to remember so many Brunswick bowling alleys. Now we know why. They were an equipment company that became an accidental landlord. So here's a pattern, and it shows up everywhere. A seller extends credit to their own buyers to keep that volume up. Revenue looks great. Growth looks real amazing. But underneath, the seller is absorbing the buyer's risk. When the buyers struggle, the seller's books blow up simultaneously because the bad loans and the bad revenue land at the same time. An equipment dealer who finances his own buyers. A distributor extending longer and longer payment terms just to keep the orders flowing. A professional services firm that starts letting accounts run past 60, 90, 120 days because they don't want to push back on a big customer. In every case, the early warning is the same. Customer financing or receivables growing faster than cash revenue. Payments slipping. The mix of sales shifting toward credit you're carrying rather than money you've collected. That's the drift. It doesn't announce itself. It just quietly builds until the day the music stops. So here's the question I want to leave with you. In your business right now, how much of your revenue is real cash and how much is credit you are still carrying? Have you actually looked at that number lately? I hope so. I'm Ernie. See you tomorrow.